So if there's one thing in the world that I feel uniformly, universally, I do not need further explanation to assume you know what I'm talking about, I would probably guess Disney's Aladdin would be that thing. But now something that might need a slight explanation, but I would not be surprised if it doesn't, would be that Disney's Aladdin was popular enough that the company decided to franchise the whole thing. This was not actually super uncommon for the Disney Renaissance films. Thinking of it offhand, I think half of the Renaissance films actually did get what I'm about to talk about, their own TV show. The Little Mermaid had a TV show. You had Timon and Pumbaa, the spin-off TV show for The Lion King, starring, of course, the hyenas. Now, something those two shows have in common is that they are readily available on Disney+. If you have a Disney Plus account, go check them out right now. Mostly Timon and Pumbaa. That show's actually pretty funny. Little Mermaid show, a little bit mid, but not bad, just mid. It does not share that in common with Aladdin, the animated series, which from day one was a complaint I saw from fans online. Where is Aladdin, the animated series? Everyone loves Aladdin, the animated series. Why isn't it on Disney Plus? Yeah, and it's been 4 years since Disney Plus launched, and we still don't have it. I really don't know why. Because not only was it apparently the one Disney afternoon show that wasn't on there, besides that Ren and Stimpy clone, Snookums and Meat, was that the name of it? When it comes to these spin-off TV shows of the Renaissance films, it's also a bit of an odd liar out there, because other than The Legend of Tarzan, yeah, they're all there too. I've mentioned The Legend of Tarzan not being on Disney Plus several times in these videos. I'm salty. That was a show that used to be very nice Saturday afternoons for me, or maybe mornings, whichever it was, whenever they aired Digimon Frontier, because I twofered those shows each time. Also, Digimon Frontier, y'all are hating for nothing. That's a good show. Okay, but what's the point of me discussing that Aladdin the animated series is not on Disney Plus? Well, it's for what you read in the title there. There are 3 separate occasions where something that counts as an episode of Aladdin the series is on Disney Plus. Y'all know 2 of them off the top of your head. It's The Return of Jafar and Aladdin and the King of Thieves. Just want to say this now. For some reason, my head often likes to call it Aladdin and the Return of the King. So if I say that by accident, I'm very sorry. I know it's Aladdin and the King of the 40 Thieves. Maybe it's not exactly that, but it's Aladdin and the King of something. I think it's the King of 40 Thieves. The King of Thieves. I know Return of the King is the last Lord of the Rings film. I don't watch the last Lord of the Rings film and go, hey, when is Disney's Aladdin gonna show up? I don't know why I get these titles confused. But of course, there's a big reason to talk these right now. I don't want to stay on it for too long because it's a bit too somber, but obviously this past April we lost legendary stand-up comedian Gilbert Gottfried. When it comes to celebrity deaths, I tend to just feel bad for the family, you know? There's people I never knew and who my attachment to is, well, it'd be kind of a vapid reason to feel too bad most of the time, other than just say condolences to the family. It's not as if my personal world is actually being shattered, so I try to just do it accordingly. Gottfried hits hard, though. That's one where I'm kind of still in the denial state. Admittedly, for a good reason, though. I mean, come on, the dude did so much voice work. We're probably going to go at least into the next year and still hearing his voice in some new properties because the recording was done months or years ago. It's just going to happen. But hearing the news made me want to go back to watch Aladdin again, which was the same thing I did when Robin Williams passed away. And I knew if I did a video, I might as well do the whole franchise because I want to save Aladdin for a Renaissance video, as I should. And that ended up being the decision. It's like, oh, well, don't watch Aladdin again, watch the Aladdin sequels again. And that made me come up with this idea of, let's talk about what does not count as the Aladdin show, according to Disney+. And we're starting with the movie where the main character is Iago. Aladdin, the Return of Jafar.
Who comes up with all the good ideas? Me! Who does all the work? Me!
If it weren't for me, you'd still be in a cage at the bazaar, squawking, Polly wants a cracker!
That's it! I've had it! I hate to be dramatic!
Some of you may be a bit too young to remember this practice. When Disney Channel, or just, well, Disney Studios in general, often liked to start a new TV show with a made-for-TV pilot. This happened all the time. And as you know, my show is ranking all of Disney. I count the TV movie stuff. I've already looked at some direct-to-video stuff already on this channel. That stuff I was still going to allow anyway. And when it comes to these pilot movies, that's the hardest one, because for a lot of the pilot movies, they just later restructured them to be a couple episodes, and I said I don't want to do 2-parters or 3-parters just because I'd have to count so many things. And the list is already designed to be as fair as unfairly possible. I had to draw the line somewhere, and that's the one line I want to draw. But, you know, I want to still count the pilot episode stuff, because most of them were an hour or so long. Like, I can't tell you how badly I want to count the pilot episode for Darkwing Duck, but you can only get that in the episode structure format on Disney Plus now. When those get their pilots resurfaced legally, I know that there are other ways. Legally, I want to count them. And that's what's nice about Return of Jafar. I can count it, because it was never turned into episodes. Return of Jafar was always a movie, and it has always stayed a movie, despite the fact it is the pilot for the TV show.
What more do you want?
The world.
Look, personally, I'm with you, kid, but let's take it one step at a time.
I want to see the world. I can't just stay in the palace. There's too much to do. Too much to see.
And because of it, people are a bit forgiving on it, and also some people are kind of pointlessly mean to Return of Jafar. Anybody who has problems with Return of Jafar, I'm not going to say your criticisms are invalid. What I'm saying is that after I watched it and I went to go log into Letterboxd, and I saw the low score it got, and I read some of the reviews there, people still seem to think that because this movie wasn't as, like, wonderfully animated and written as a theatrical film, that it just means it's bad? What did you think you were watching? Like, okay, yes, it's the sequel to Aladdin. Understandably, it should still pick up some stuff where Aladdin left off. It should still be true to the characters. For my money, it is. It might not be for some, and that's fine. But if you're watching a direct-to-VHS movie that very clearly feels like the pilot to a TV series, what are you talking about? Oh, it's not as good as this theatrical film. Not everything needs to be judged on the same bar. I mean, there's a reason why I'm putting all this crap in the same list. I'm kind of pointing this out. I'm judging them the way they should be judged individually, and I'm pointing out how funny that will be when you actually see it. Return of Jafar will be much higher on my final list than some people might put it if they decided to count it as if it was a theatrical film, because it's not a theatrical film. It's the pilot TV. It's the pilot to a TV series. But enough pointless criticism aside, how does the Return of Jafar still actually hold up right now? So the idea behind Return of Jafar is, because Iago must have been a very popular character during the first movie, Disney decided, let's get Gottfried back, and let's give a redemption story to Iago, something I'm sure most people were not expecting in the slightest. And what I actually really like about the story is that it feels really accurate to Iago as a character. He's still snide and snarky. He still feels like he's mostly out for himself, even as he's getting better. It does a very simple idea of like, you know, no one's ever actually been nice to me. But it doesn't feel as cheesy as that.
Oh, stuck good. Cue ball ectomy. Nurse! Abu, Iago here's our friend now. We can trust him.
Thanks, Bobo.
It's Abu.
Whatever.
That's the spirit. We're all one big family now.
Yeah, sure. Family.
How could you double-cross Aladdin after all he's done for you? What are you doing now?
Oh, what does it look like I'm doing? I'm trying to free the chump genie so he can save your chump boyfriend.
There's no one to save you this time.
Hey, asshole! Shut up!
There was something about how they decided to redeem Iago, but they still wanted him to be rough around the edges. And it's someone who has some very fond memories of the TV show. This carried into the TV show. He was more of an anti-hero, more out for himself, still a sucker for treasure, that kind of thing. But he owed Aladdin and Aladdin's friends for actually being nice to him, and he did treat them as his friends. It kind of works shockingly well, and Gilbert Gottfried was a really good actor. Like, the dude appeared in a bajillion things. I guess he was just willing to negotiate contracts, though, because he puts the performances in. I know not everyone even liked Gilbert Gottfried, but most of their complaints were just because the voice was annoying, which, that wasn't his real voice, as most people have pointed out. That's what some people call a joke. So I also say, if you were someone who was not a big fan of Gilbert Gottfried, I also understand why you wouldn't super get into this movie, because this is the most Iago stars. There are definitely not definitely probably, it's just, again, I can't go back and rewatch them legally, so I really don't know for sure. I'm just educated guessing. There are some episodes of the show where he is the main focus, but, you know, the average episode is not as long as this movie. So this is the most Iago has ever been center stage, plot-wise. So if you're not a big Gilbert Gottfried fan, this is the one where you will have some problems. Versus, say, any episode of the show, the original movie, or when we get to it, the third film. There's another criticism that I'm going to address here that some people have for the film that I think makes more sense when you think about why it happened, which is Dan Castellaneta's take of the genie and also the writing that happened for the genie. A lot of people know about the backstory of what happened with Williams' contract, how Jeffrey Katzenberg broke it, and the bad blood that happened. I want to say this, though. If we lived in a world where that never happened, I still think Dan Castellaneta would have probably ended up voicing Genie for at least the TV series. And likely would have still been for Return of Jafar as well, because it is the pilot. For one specific reason. Gilbert Gottfried was in a lot of TV shows, as I said before. How many TV shows was Robin Williams in? Some actors, especially after they get high profile, don't really do TV appearances all that much. They might show up as a special guest star, a special cameo, and Williams did do that. But name a recurring character Robin Williams played besides Mork from Mork and Mindy, and that's a reference that the YouTube watching audience might not even know what I'm talking about. I'm sure Castellaneta would have shown up at some point or another, even if there had been no bad blood. And I will say, I like Dan Castellaneta's performance. I think he does try to still be the same character, but he is kind of bringing his own performance to the table in his own way. I mean, this is Dan Castellaneta, a veteran voice actor with a lot of voices and a lot of great performances. I can't dislike his work as Genie, not at all. I think he does a very good job. I also still prefer Robin Williams, but I will not throw any shade towards Dan Castellaneta's Genie. I like it a lot. The other thing that people have brought up is that this genie feels a little bit staler and a lot less powerful, which the show even, well, the pilot even mentions. For some reason, in universe, a freed genie just doesn't seem to have as many hugely cosmic powers. I don't know why. That was the rule they chose, but I do understand why they need to do that kind of thing. Think back to the first movie again. He could do anything, except for certain rules he could not break, and also that it has to be through a wish. He could do stuff like, say, become a one-man marching band, stuff like that, but the actual biggest, most powerful stuff the genie could do was only when a wish was granted. Now, spoilers for that first movie, genie's freed at the end. That gets rid of the power barrier. So, they need to know the reason as to why Genie is less powerful. If Genie still had all the powers that he had when he was freed, and now no longer had the power dampering of, oh, only when it's a wish, then, you know, Mosenrath would have lasted 5 seconds because Genie would have just teleported him to the moon. You need rules to make sure that things are not overpowered, and the first movie had them. So you gotta make up different ones for the show, especially since the show's gonna last longer than the film. That's just how it goes. Now, as for the writing being weaker, look, the TV writers, like, for whatever reason, just, you know, they're not as salaried, or I don't know what. I could not tell you what it is. I was not a fly on the wall on those scenes. But TV writing and theatrical film writing are two different beasts. And as I'm going to keep saying for all of these, even the times I don't like a direct-to-video film from Disney, you have to keep that in mind. That these were completely different studios working under the same company. And for my money, I think the writing works for what it is. Like I said, I can't really be too critical on this at all. I actually really like Return of Jafar, especially for what it is. I can't watch it and not think, yep, this is a TV show pilot. There are bits that feel structured kind of like a linear film, but it mostly feels like we're redoing this character, showing in a different light, purely to prepare you for a TV series with Iago and Aladdin and Genie and Jasmine and Abu going on all these adventures. And as a bonus, we're going to bring back Jafar and give him a final fate. And hey, here's a thing that people might even forget. It introduced another character who shows up in the show a lot, which is Abysmal.
Is this a haul or what, my surly band of desert skunks?
And what is our reward?
Here you go. Good work, boys. Very successful raid.
Yeah, again, because you can't watch the show on Disney Plus, I'm sure a lot of you forgot that Jason Alexander's character here is not unique to the movie. Abysmal showed up a lot. And like this film, he was pretty incompetent and pretty funny. Occasionally he did something really right. I remember one episode where he rewrote history to become the Sultan of Agrabah, and he was also the guy who, twice in this series, he becomes the owner of a genie. Because first he gets Jafar, later on down the line, he finds the genie of this poor kid, who ends up becoming our genie's love interest. Genie ends up being weird in this pilot especially, because he's mostly just there for comedic relief. He gets used as a plot point at one point because of his powers, but it is mostly just comedic relief. That's not always true for the show. It is mostly true, but again, there's stuff like him getting a love interest. Oh god, there's this character I remember so well. I unfortunately forget the name, but there's this basic magic bounty hunter that is out there to exterminate magical creatures. It's good. The Aladdin, the TV series, if I can remember it this fondly when I haven't seen it in well over 10 years, you understand why people are complaining it's not on Disney Plus. I am sorry that this is all this video was turning into. It's just me whining that the show's not on Disney Plus, when I really want to say here, Return of Jafar is really good. Let's go back real quickly to when I said about half of the Disney Renaissance films had their own spin-off TV show. There's one I didn't mention. So Hercules the Animated Series is an interesting little thing. Like Timon and Pumbaa, it is comedy-based, which really honestly makes more sense for this one than, say, The Lion King doing a spin-off like that, since that movie is fairly serious. Well, Hercules is a straight-up comedy film, except for, like, you know, a few dramatic bits. It's a comedy film. I mean, it has one of the most well-liked, purely comedic Disney villains. It's a comedy film. So, a comedy TV series makes perfect sense. And being able to watch that again, because it is on Disney Plus, that comedy held up better than I thought it would. I remembered liking the show quite a bit, and watching it again, it's good. It's not gonna break your brain with how good and fantastic it is. The animation is decent, but the money went to the writers and the performances in this one, because it's the voice cast of the film, even though a lot of them were high-profile people, and the comedy is really good. And there's one episode I get to talk about specifically. It's a crossover between it and Aladdin the Animated Series.
Oh, well, that was indeed worth a chuckle, but I couldn't help but notice that Aladdin is still alive!
You win. The kid is trickier than I thought.
Aladdin humiliated you! Don't you want your revenge?
Yeah, sure, okay? How about I rule the cosmos first, and then I'll take it, okay?
The timeline for this one is weird. I actually assumed it took place directly after Return of Jafar, because Jafar's dead and a ghost. But then this scene happened when I was rewatching.
Have you now, Aladdin?
Well, he matches the description.
But he doesn't look very heroic.
Looks can be deceiving. I'm Aladdin.
I think you have our monkey.
Those are the clothes Aladdin wears in Aladdin and the King of the 40 Thieves. So this is after the third film, and if that wasn't your only clue, Iago doesn't appear in this. I gotta jump to spoilers real quick, but Iago decides that permanently hang out with Aladdin's dad at the end of the third film, so he's no longer in Agrabah.
So, you little turkey, come to say goodbye?
I already said my goodbyes. Of course, the monkey had a cry, and that got me going.
Well, I don't know where I'm going, but you are welcome to come along for the ride.
You're a good guy, Kasim, but not too good.
And before you think maybe it's just because Gilbert Gottfried was too busy, so I'm looking too far into it, pretty sure Dan Castellaneta was too busy, but Genie still appears in the episode.
Win, all right? Look, do whatever you want to me. Just don't take what's in my lamp.
Why? What's in the lamp? Aha! Now we'll just see what special goodies you've got in here.
Stop!
So what we have here is our basic setup of two classic Disney villains, like some of people's all-time favorites. I can't say Hades is one of my all-time Disney favorite villains. I can say that for Jafar, though. Just two of them working together. And look, I don't even, hate Hades or anything. He's just not one of my all-time favorites. But these two work together surprisingly well. It establishes how they are, similar in the ways that they're evil and pretty comedic at the times, but they're different characters in how they scheme and how they specifically carry out their tasks. It's good. The writing here makes them feel like characters who would get along and who aren't just the same. And after both of them get bested by each other's personal greatest enemy, they finally team up with the idea of the classic, what if Batman fought Superman kind of angle. Let's have Hercules and Aladdin kill each other. Do you need a stronger plot for a silly 20-something minute crossover between some of Disney's most iconic characters, not from the whole catalog, let alone just the Renaissance era? You really don't. This is just a fun episode. The jokes land. It's nice seeing all these characters again. It's fun seeing Jafar and Hades come to gripes and then get along. It's fun to see Aladdin and Hercules come to gripes and then get along. It's just good. There's nothing to complain about. It's not this great, amazing, must-see television event. But man, if you're a 90s kid or just a fan of the Disney Renaissance, it's sort of something that will hit you right. Now we're on to the final parts. Not the finale to Aladdin, technically, because that crossover episode, if you count it as canon, and there's no reason to not, I guess, even if the timeline's a bit weird, then that's the final thing Aladdin appears in. Animated Aladdin, the live-action remake, is its own continuity. And the last real final hurrah for Aladdin is Aladdin and the King of the 40 Thieves. This is one of the most beloved of the Disney direct-to-video films. And for everything I said about Return of Jafar, I can actually look at King of 40 Thieves, or King of Thieves. I'm really sorry, it's hard to remember which the title of that thing is. At least I'm not calling it Return of the King again. It's one of those ones that does feel more like a full-on actual movie, and that makes sense. A pilot has to prove that there's potential for the thing. A finale has the rest of the show to build up, to have had it built up, to know what it is and to know what its own strengths are. And this last Aladdin film really feels like it. I'm gonna go on a limb and also say I bet it would not reach my top 10 if I could rewatch this show. But in many ways it is a better version of direct-to-video Aladdin than what Return of Jafar offered us, as someone who did quite like rewatching Return of Jafar. All the characters get more of a chance, especially Aladdin. Aladdin feels like the main character of a movie named after him this time. The stuff with his father is really good. Like, I love how, as much as it gave him a sympathetic backstory, it makes it very clear Aladdin does not just immediately forgive this guy.
I'm sorry for what you lost. But you can't go back now. You know that. What are you doing?
I'm not going with you. I won't run away.
I never ran away from anything in my life.
You ran away from your family.
I told you what happened. What else could I do? What else can you do?
The right thing.
Aladdin.
I'm your son. But I can't live your life.
We have the Oracle! The treasure's just waiting for us!
The Oracle?
I had nothing left to lose.
Yes, you did.
He wants to love him because he's his father, but he calls him out for it. He says he was wrong. When he gets betrayed again later, he acts as if it's a betrayal and acts like he saw it coming anyway. This character that in some other medias, I feel like would just be like, well, he had his reasons, Aladdin, just forgive him. Okay. And it so helps that it's John Rhys Davies. Like Gilbert Gottfried, this was a guy who really didn't turn roles down, and like Gilbert Gottfried, gave his all. Although Gilbert Gottfried was a stand-up comedian, so it's different when we're talking a Shakespearean-trained actor.
You killed Saluk. The code of the 40 Thieves is very clear on this point. You're in.
It's such a good performance, and the film is structured very well. There were a few bits I thought it dragged, I'm just going to be straight up with you, more than Return of Jafar, believe it or not, because Return of Jafar just kind of was able to go with the flow more. This one is so grand and big and epic, there are times where I was like, is this a bit too long? I know that's weird for such a short film, but it does feel a little bit too long. But the set pieces are so good, the giant turtle at the end, man, and the Hand of Midas is just such an interesting artifact. I was reading on TV Tropes, some people have said it feels less like an episode of the Aladdin TV series and more like a spin-off to Indiana Jones. And I can feel that. There's something very Indiana Jonesy about that last temple. And then, of course, you have Saluk, who is just such a great nemesis for Aladdin, and especially for Aladdin's father.
We have rules about intruders.
Saluk is right.
He knows our secrets.
I hate intruders.
Wait, me too. He has found our secret lair. has seen too much. Why do you walk in the open while I suffocate like an animal?
Someone has to keep a cool head, Saluk.
Someone will have no head if this is another wild goose chase.
Now, how does he rank against the villains of the TV show when you had characters like Mirage, and Mechanicles, and Abysmal, and Mosenrath's pet eel, whose name I've forgotten, and that magic bounty hunter I mentioned before? Man, again, these two films are stuff that I don't think would be my favorite highlights of the series, but at least when they're on their own, there's not much to complain about. And that's why it's so weird talking about these, knowing what they are. If you have no attachment to the series, you might have radically different opinions than me. You might watch Return to Jafar and be like, this feels so stale and so kind of boring and nothing and doesn't really lead to much of anything, other than, I guess, Iago's a good guy now. And you might watch that third film and be like, it's really grand and really epic. I almost feel like I'm missing some context, and I don't know, what this note it's leaving on, I guess, is really nice. As someone who knows that this was a whole franchise, I feel like it started out promising, and so I can grade it that way. And ended really satisfying, and so I can grade it that way. Both of these films are 3 out of 5s. Third film is technically much better, and will look that way on the final list. They're drilling. Who are they? The maintenance people.
You'll never miss your mother.
Ooh, that's sweat!
Gilbert Gottfried. Gilbert Gottfried! Okay! For a 5-square win. Gilbert, Playgirl magazine's clinical sexologist, says, I think we should be able to talk about sex the way we talk about what?
Soft-boiled eggs, because they don't take under 3 minutes.
In 3 minutes?
No, I know this one because I posed for Playgirl. You don't actually see anything because my thumb was in the way. I just want to end by saying education and family values are very important.
So, fun fact, the girlfriend for Genie, Genie isn't the only one who got a girlfriend in this show. Iago also gets this love interest at some point, who's this green parrot. And to get outside of Aladdin for a second, that really infamous Hunchback of Notre Dame 2, Quasimodo's new love interest often wears a lot of green. Is there an unwritten rule in Disney spin-offs that new love interests have to be green?